y'all? It's Yungavelle back at it with another video. This one's gonna be great. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. I'm here with my boy FreshJeffs.
What it do, what it do?
He's one of the only brothers that I found out here that are also on the retention wave. So I figured, yo, I got to bring my boy on here. He's actually one of the nicest barbers that I've ever come across. So we got some good stuff coming on for you today. I got my probiotic shot to stimulate my mind into higher vibrations of thought, which is what we're going to dive into, because Think and Grow Rich elaborated on that exact thing. So me and him were reading the book Think and Grow Rich. I'm sure everybody has heard of that book. And there's a chapter in Think and Grow Rich on sexual transmutation. And the simple fact that it's in a book of that caliber, I feel like is something for us to note. You know, something for us to dive into a little further. So first of all, what are some of your... Tell me why you do semen retention, or like why you're on the no-fap wave. What's your experience been like?
Okay, so as far as my experience been on semen retention and no-fap, it's been a great one. Self-awakening. I felt that I got to know my inner self instead of the outside shell, what the world was telling me. And knowing my inner self was kind of like, I got more in tune with my emotions and more aware of my thoughts. That, wow, you know, my thoughts are more alive and I can manifest things through my thoughts. I became more self-driven because I felt like there's this emotion inside of me that wants me to go after my desires, aka my goals, you know. And before I practiced semen retention, I didn't really have, you know, we had goals, but we call those goals ideas because we didn't have the drive to go after it.
Right.
But on that retention, you know, I had an urge, you know, this urge and this drive to attain all these things that were once just a desire, you know. So that's the number one thing I noticed on retention, you know, just the ability and the want and the drive to go after things I wanted, you know.
Isn't it? It's so interesting, and it brings me to our next point about how semen retention and sexual transmutation stimulates the mind to action. So in the chapter Think and Grow Rich, they mention that there are 10 stimuli for the mind that basically excite the mind to what they called higher rates of vibration in terms of action, getting you to act.
Of course, of course.
So I'm going to read off that list, and I wrote it down because I'm not remembering that. All right, so number 1, the desire for sex expression. Notice how that's number 1 in terms of what steps up the vibrations of the mind and starts the wheels for physical action. Number 1 is the desire for sex expression. Number 2, love. Number 3, burning desire for fame, power, or financial gain / money. Number 4 is music, which we'll build on because we both do music.
Of course.
Number 5 is friendship, either between the same sex or opposite sex. Number 6 is a mastermind alliance based on the harmony of 2 or more people who ally themselves for spiritual or temporal advancement, kind of like what we're doing right now with this video. Number 7 is mutual suffering, such as that which is experienced by people who are persecuted. Number 8, out of suggestion. Number 9, fear. Number 10, narcotics or drugs. So it went from greatest strength to kind of lowest in terms of the ability to stimulate the mind for, you know, get the wheels going for physical action. And I thought it was brilliant how they, you know, they made a little list, and that having that list and being aware of it, it doesn't seem so foreign when you start getting urges and you're like, okay, this is just one methodology of stimulating my mind. This is actually the strongest, so how can I use this? So building off what we were just talking about, number 4 is music, and we are both musicians. So what's your experience in terms of, I know you're just telling me about that.
Of course, yeah. I would say, you know, my experience with retention on music is bad. I have to use the word incredible again because, man, it was almost like the more I would build retention, the longer days I would go, it was like I was getting a download into my brain. So I would say that my head became an antenna. You know, the energy shooting up from the back of my spine, you know, from my scrotum to the back of my spine to my brain, going out to the universe, and it's downloading ideas, you know.
Chord with it. It's like you activated.
I was activated, yep. And then, you know, as long as I had a pen or paper by me, I was able to write these ideas and be more creative. It was like, instead of me thinking of the idea, it was able to flow. Like it first started off a stream, then a river, and then an ocean, you know. And then you could almost like a spiraling effect, you know, of a snowball becomes an avalanche.
You're tapped in.
Yeah, I'm tapped in, you know. And it became more joyful. Like it was like the essence of the retention and the beat became one, and that was music.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
What would you say? Would you say you experienced the same thing?
Yeah, man. Similar? It's so funny because last night I was hanging out, and you know there were beats playing, and I just started freestyling, right? So I was with someone, you know, we were hanging out, and you know it was like the slow beats just chilling, and I was like, yeah, these beats are tough, and they were like, go ahead, spit something, like, let me hear something, yo, and I just jumped right in. I just jumped right in, and it was flowing, saying punchlines, metaphors, and stuff that was tough, like exactly. Connected, and I was just like, yo, it was just so effortless how my mind was just constructing these things, and I'm like, I felt so good after, you know, because it's a freestyle, you know, like you're tapped into the creative side of yourself where you're kind of like surprising yourself, but you're in the zone because you're grabbing these thoughts and like you're moving with it, and I was like, yo, this space is just so amazing, man. So I definitely feel that vibration of being tapped in when you're, you know, when you retain, when you access this energy, because this energy is going to need a form of expression.
Of course.
You know, if you're on retention, you need to find outlets of expression.
Of course.
And tell me about how you perceive the flower when you were talking about. Oh,
okay. So I want to talk about a time, you know, I passed by this garden, you know, and I saw like a rose in this garden, you know. It had this one rose that stood out, and I was looking at the rose, like, first I looked at it like an artist, you know, wow, the beauty of the rose. And then there's something inside me, the essence from building up the retention. It made me look deeper into the rose, of like the energy of the rose, you know, and the rose essence itself.
The inside.
Yeah, and it was like the essence from building up the retention had a connection with the rose too, to make me want to see the inside of the rose. You know, that's not the beauty of it, but what's the function of it, you know? What is it made of? It's getting its light from the sun. It's getting its soil it's getting its light from the soil and the water flowing into it. And that was like all these functions that made this beautiful flower right in front of me, you know?
Yeah.
So now I thought about how the flower, all that process itself was like its retention, you know? For it to become strong and beautiful, you know? And be protected by thorns, you know? So it's like the evolution I saw in the flower. Before I practiced retention, I'll pass by it and, you know, hey, that's a beautiful flower. But I got to see the thing deeper when I looked at it, you know?
So it's like the inner, you know, as we get on retention more and more, basically our inner space becomes stronger, and we're able to, it's like we more easily see the inner space of those things around us that we experience,
100,
that are in our, you know, in our circle or direct experience. So another thing that was really interesting in this chapter was this experiment that they talked about. There was this inventor. His name is Dr. Elmer R. Gates, and he's responsible for over 200 patents. And they went in on his basically his methodology of how he would create stuff. So he would use sexual transmutation this way, and this was like an aha moment for me, at least, when I heard it. They said that he has this room called the personal communication room, and it has the ability to like block out all light. So he just sits there in the dark. He has a little pen and paper with his eyes closed, and he focuses on the current parameters of his invention, like the current things of his invention that are known to him, and he just concentrates on them. He concentrates on them until he gets flashes of images and other flashes that are related to the invention, but these things are not known to him. Like he didn't know these things. He's getting flashes and he's writing them down. So he was like, there was one time where the flashes were coming so intensely, he was writing for 3 hours. And when he stopped and when he actually looked at what he read, he actually saw that there were parameters for, unbeknownst to science at the time, new parameters for one of the inventions that he had.
Of course.
So he was able to tap into that creative imagination through harnessing sexual transmutation in a direct process of concentration. And it was like he was downloaded naturally of ways that would further that creativity, novelty, like novel thoughts that he didn't know before, but he has access to just by concentrating on said thing. The new ideas were coming just because he was tapped in almost.
Exactly.
So I was like, yo, sexual, like when you're on sexual semen retention, it levels you up. And another thing that, so remember that, y'all. Remember that exact process, that like, if retention doesn't mean anything if you don't take the time to actually use that energy, if you don't actually harness it. Yeah, you gotta harness that energy. So I remember you were telling me like about the women.
Yeah.
You know, because the latter part of the chapter started talking about how a lot of people, like famous rich people, are like, they're able to, like one of the high, like for example, you get a high businessman and he has a cute secretary. You know, because that drive elicits a man to like strive for further, use for further. So it's like you frame women a little bit differently when you're on retention. It's not so much like, nah, I can't mess with you at all. It's more like, wow, you're beautiful. Let me create. You know?
Yeah.
So what's your experience been on how you perceive women now?
I started to perceive women on an energetic level with semen retention. So before, you know, when I wasn't practicing retention, it was more like a lustful thing. I'm looking at women's bodies and, you know, it's like, wow, she got this, she got that. Let me get in that, I guess, you know. But then when I started practicing retention, it was like I start to almost feel women's auric field or their emotions, you know. And like, wow, this woman's kind of like damaged right here. She's carrying some baggage energy on her. Let me stay away from that. Or this woman's, you know, this woman's kind of shy, but she has some good energy. Let me go talk to her and speak to her and stuff. I get to know her. But all the meanwhile, I'm still focused on my craft. You know, I'm still focused on my craft and trying to get things done. I'm not out here just trying to taste tell. And I believe that the women can pick up on that too, you know, because the more we practice retention, it's like I used to always ask people, what would you rather take home? A tree with apples or a tree with no apples? And people would be like, the tree with apples. And I'd be like, well, that's that apple tree practicing retention, because that's a seed. So automatically, that apple tree has a purpose. You can see its purpose on it. It's younger, it's more beautiful, it's vibrant, it's shiny, and everyone's drawn to this apple. Compared to the apple tree that's dropping its apples every day, it has no purpose no more. It's withering away, it's aging quicker. And so that's the number one thing I notice on practice retention too with the women. They see the apples on your apple tree.
That is amazing. Y'all need to remember that or write that down, because that is, I love that, man. I'd rather be the tree with the apples on it. So, you know, it's funny. One of the things that I do now that I just started doing, I think like last week, is like when I see a beautiful woman now, you know, instead of just being like, no, I can't look at that. Like, I'll be like, nice, I'm a multi-millionaire. It's funny. It's like I like use that energy, but put like a sharp point on that energy of I am a multimillionaire, and I let it go, you know, instead of repressing, you know, because I used to do that where I used to be like, nah, I can't even look at women, or like I gotta curb those urges as soon as they come up. But it's like, it's funny because I noticed that in my mind when I say things like, wow, she has a beautiful butt, I'm a multimillionaire. It's just like, yo, I'm like validating how I'm feeling, or like I'm validating that initial expression that comes up, but I'm putting a purpose to it. And it's a more open feeling, you know, because you know how when you repress things tend to build up, and then you're like, ow, I gotta let off or something. You know, so that was something that I you know, that I started doing. So is there anything else you want to add?
No, I feel like that's kind of similar. What I was saying with the tree, like you know, you focus on saying I'm a millionaire, a billionaire. It's you just remind yourself, hey man, these apples are on my tree. I can't drop them. She can't come over here and just pick these apples yet until I fully get to where I need to go. And you know, because like I say, we're all planting seeds, and our thoughts are seeds. So you're letting that retention is building up with your thought, and it's actually growing that tree. You know, that $1 million, $1 billion tree right there. You know what I'm saying?
Man. That's great. I love how that just flowed out, man. So like, tap in, man. Tap in if y'all haven't. I say this a lot. If y'all having hesitations about getting on this journey, y'all don't believe that it's a real thing, you know, I'll just say try it for like a little bit, you know, 7 days, and try it for 3 days, 7 days, and you'll see, you know, you'll see. So that's pretty much all that we wanted to chat about today. That chapter is great. You definitely want to check it out. So if you guys got anything, you already know, share, like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to throw FreshJeffs IG in there. If y'all in Florida, South Florida, y'all need a cut, this is the guy to do it. You know the merch is here, Awaken Alpha. The link will be in the description. So until next time, like we always say, remember, a greater perspective can lead to a greater connection. Peace.